Talmor, Shishin Magachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
The thing that I fought tooth and nail to bring my son into is Dungeons and Dragons. That is the ultimate solution to parenthood.
I'm Alexis Ohanian. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. I talked to Rainn Wilson. I wanted to learn more about Rainn's advice to play D&D with your kids. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, a special edition of the Toddcast podcast.
Powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, providing complete financing and mortgage services for residential and small commercial businesses. Visit them at citywidemortgage.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest podcast on the planet. Toddcast. And you watch, Gene Simmons will now sue me for that. It is true, though. This week, you'll go back in time, roughly the last few months, and here's some guest highlights. And it's a best of this week. Some outstanding guests in that time. Not to brag or toot our own horn, although somebody's got to do it. In sports, you'll hear from our resident sports loudmouth. He's been part of the cast since we launched in 2015. A model/race car driver and a retired NHL Vancouver Canucks goaltender. In entertainment, she is a hypnotherapist and a Reiki master. You will hear from a practicing CHN and CBT and an author/geologist. And this week's musical guests in just a minute. It's a lead guitarist, a singer, and a drummer. And it sounds like the start of a joke where the drummer ends up sleeping on your couch. It's not the case. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for being there week in, week out. Do appreciate that. So coming up shortly, and stop me if you've heard this before, WBFF Pro and Hitch Fit owner Diane Chalot talks about nutrition and your meal planning and what you could be and should be doing in that regard. People pay big money for her to dish this sort of advice out. So that's later on in the podcast. As always, powered by our good friends at FKP MMA. Learn self-defense. Number 1. Number 2, build your self-esteem. Trust that you will be able to protect yourself and your family and your loved ones if need be. My youngest, Levi, he loves it. So I suppose if anything ever goes down where it's the family, we're going to trust that Levi will protect us. I mean, they train a UFC heavyweight fighter named Bigfoot Machado. Caillou is an absolute beast. Easily Vancouver's #1 training destination through FKPMMA.com. First, let's get to those musical guests. They're all powered by the Hawkins Sound Ranch, over 20 years experience. So Corey, the owner, has been involved in this world for decades. I mean, straight up decades, back to his time in Vancouver with his band called The Ghost of Blood Alley. If you remember those guys, been there, done that, right? So let him help your band get to that next level. Use their state-of-the-art studio. They've got top-notch gear. They like to say it's the commercial sound on an indie budget, and knowing the industry, that's got a pretty damn good ring to it. Let's be honest. Check them out through the HawkinsSoundRanch.com. They're also on Facebook. I see them from there time to time chirping off some posts and whatever, right? So you'll know Tesla, without a doubt, not the car, but one of the best rock bands of the last, 25, 30 years anyway. Formed in 81, Sacramento, California. I remember driving to high school in my buddy Ian's truck. He would pick me up in Terrace. And most mornings, Ian would be playing Tesla, and loud. I mean, it was loud. And you started at the very beginning of Tesla's career with Mechanical Resonance, through to the next record, Great Radio Controversy. And then it just kind of, I've followed the band ever since. And they, of course, have had some really big radio songs along the way, starting off with Modern Day Cowboy. Love Song was big for them. Signs was big. What You Give was big. So it was super cool to be able to grab Tesla lead guitarist Frank Hannon, jumped on a Zoom with us. He shared stories about touring, specifically here in Canada. We talked about all sorts of things like reading self-help books, binging Westerns and Star Trek. And you'll love this story about his first musical memory and his first concert.
Well, I can remember being a toddler and going to a barbecue or a party or something with my mom, and there was a band playing in the backyard, and there was a guitar player. And I remember I must have been 2 or 3 years old, and I was like on her shoulders like this. She would carry me around. And I remember a guitar player having a flying V guitar.
Nice.
And that image, I can still see it in my mind, of this guy playing this thing that was shaped like a flying V, and it just blowing my mind as a little kid. Fast forward to when I was 10 years old, Johnny Cash and the Statler Brothers were playing at the Memorial Auditorium in Sacramento. And that's the first concert that I really remember seeing the Man in Black and hearing his voice. And man, I just was mesmerized. A year later, one of my cousins took me to hear Robin Trower perform at the same auditorium that I saw Johnny Cash the year before. I saw Robin Trower, and that blew my mind. His guitar sound was epic. It just, wow, I'd never heard a guitar sound so good in my life. Then my mother took me to see a movie called Monterey Pop Festival. And that is the movie footage that has Jimi Hendrix playing Wild Thing. And when he sets his guitar on fire. Have you seen that footage?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's iconic. But seeing that in a movie when I was like 10 years old really flipped me out, watching Jimi Hendrix do that. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy to think that, like, you know, your band Tesla, that's some people's first concert experience?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, you know. And then I also hear at every show, parents and grandparents are bringing their kids to see Tesla, and this is his first concert or her first concert ever, and we get to meet those kids, and it's amazing. Yeah, there's nothing like being at a concert. One of the first concerts I ever saw was Day on the Green in Oakland Coliseum, big outdoor stadium. Hearing the Scorpions for the first time on their Blackout tour, you know, I'll never forget that.
And when you think back to your early days, like, what is your earliest musical memory? Like, most of mine involve a hassock. It was just full of records, full of albums. My mom had created this awesome collection. It's sitting beside this behemoth, and I mean, it's huge, this behemoth record player that we had back like in the 70s and 80s, early 80s kind of thing. But opening up the album sleeves, I remember that, and like reading the liner notes and following along and reading to the lyrics and just listening to the instruments and how they all seem to kind of collide, but yet they all fit together. And it was just, I loved hearing Frank talking about his early musical memories. We also talked a little bit about COVID and coming out of those crazy couple of years. He shared a story about touring with Def Leppard. He shared a funny David Lee Roth story. He talked about football in Vegas, the party days of drinking and all the drugs, and how Aerosmith and disco had an early influence in his life. And Frank even gave some autobiography recommendations.
Yeah, well, let's see. I read Carlos Santana's biography. That was good. I read the Long Strange Trip Grateful Dead biography. The other one, Bob Weir. I do like biographies.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes, you know, I'll get into reading like self-help books, you know, how to manage your life kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I haven't been reading books lately too much over the holidays and stuff. But you know, when I'm at the airport, I'll pick up a book, you know, to try to pass the time, and it's usually a biography.
Yeah, same. I just picked up the I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Geddy Lee autobiography. I flipped through a couple pages last night. I mean, obviously it's going to be a fantastic read, right?
Yeah, that's My Effing Life or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is. My Effing Life. That's right.
I got to get that book. I love Rush and Geddy Lee, and he's so witty, man. Yeah, I'd love to read that. You know which book really surprised me that was a page turner was K.K. Downing's biography.
Oh, no way. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you know, and he gets a bad rap because he left Judas Priest or whatever, but, you know, being in a band is not easy, man. And when you got power struggles, you know, and ego trips and stuff, you know, I mean, who knows what happened in there? But when you get KK Downing's side of it, it's pretty entertaining.
I bet, man. And you know, of course, KK was in that band in their heyday. He was like the guy.
Absolutely. And he talks about how they discovered leather clothes and the whole image of it all and the power struggles that went on within the band. And, you know, but he talks about his childhood and his relationship with his parents and stuff like that. It was a good read. I enjoyed it.
From Tesla's lead guitarist, Frank Hannon, to one of the singers on Mick Mars's new solo album, a guy named Brion Gamboa. His name might be ringing some bells right now for you because he's the founding member, a lead guitarist and singer in a band called Third Mist. These are the guys that made it through to the semifinals of Star Search in the mid-90s. That may be why Brian's name's ringing a bell. And remember back then, that show was freaking huge. It was massive. Something like 40 million viewers for the show caught Brian when he was on. So Brian's well known for producing a big charity concert for MTV. He wrote the theme song, We Have the Voice, which was then played in high schools across the United States. He's truly a been there, done that guy. Got him talking about all sorts of stuff like Kiss and Sammy Hagar and glam rock. Do you remember the TV show Hawaii Five-0 from back in the day? That. He shared a near-death driving story. He talked about how his world changed when grunge took over. And Brian talked about being one of the singers on Mick Mars's new solo album and everyone else that's involved in that project.
Unbelievable, man. But, you know, I've said it to people before, and it's funny when you get to, you know, and I was lucky with this, but when you get to work on a project where you actually really like the music, and more importantly, you really like the people that are a part of it. Yeah. And it's fun. I sound like a broken record, but the group of people that surround this thing, Mick is a given. Mick's an awesome dude, man. I mean, he's just easygoing. He's so humble. He's just a great guy to be around, you know? So, and then who brought me into this was Paul Taylor, who's been a dear friend for over 15 years, ever since I've lived in Nashville. We've gotten pretty close and we've done a lot of things together, but, so you got Jacob Bunton, who's just amazing as well. Amazing vocalist. He does a bunch of stuff. I mean, he plays a bunch of instruments and everything he does, he's good at. Like Paul, Ray.
Those guys, just like really everything you touch is gold. Yeah. Like really.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I play a bunch of stuff, but I don't think it's good as any of those guys. But but you got Ray. Who's here from Korn?
Ray Korn's drummers, part of that project. Yeah, it's crazy, man. He's huge.
Gosh. And then Chris Collier, who is mixed on a ton of different stuff. He's also an awesome musician, and he plays bass on it, and then he mixed it as well. And then, of course, there's Michael Wagner. You know, I can't say enough about Michael Wagner. He is a wonderful guy, you know, which is cool because he did kind of the first record with Mick. Back when, and then really this, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure Mick's album was kind of the last album he did before he retired.
Right, like even a guy like Brian, who's had a bunch of success on his own, and you listen to him gush about working with Motley Crue's guitarist and his solo album. Like, pretty incredible. Music is so powerful. Brion has his own studio, as you might expect, called Sound Mission Studio. Works as a producer, engineer as well, beyond, of course, performing. He's played for the U.S. troops. He's won numerous awards in songwriting, vocal performance, and guitaring. He has over 200 album credits. 200. It's crazy. I think we talked to Brion, I think it was close to 45 minutes. We got into gaming, comic books, how Boston, Eagles, Joe Cocker were super influential to him early on. He shared the story of seeing Neil Diamond in concert. We talked about binging Curse of Oak Island. I recommended that he check out Graham Hancock's appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast with aliens and talking about the pyramids and all that crazy stuff and how everything aligns within certain, degrees of whatever. And it's interesting. And Brion talked about his love of football and being a big Denver Broncos fan.
I love football, man. I'm a
okay.
And yes, I don't live there anymore, and it's been a kind of a depressing several years, but I'm still a Broncos fan.
Wow,
Denver
really?
Broncos. Yeah, I know it's painful right now. It's really painful.
Not feeling very good right now, I guess, eh?
I haven't been feeling good since Peyton left. It's been a rough go.
Like every fan, man. You talk to them just like they cry about Peyton the whole fucking time, man.
Well, think about it. After, dude, I'm not going to mention names, but we went from Elway, after a run of people, long ago. But then we got into the Elway era, which was amazing, right? And then you go from Elway and then jump to Peyton, and it's like, come on. Like, it's.
Well, dude, as good as he is. Yeah.
I feel bad for all the other quarterbacks that come into Denver. I do, because there's talent, but those are some big shoes to fill. Those two,
Who's the best right now in the league, do you think?
Well, I don't even know.
Where's Mahomes fitting all that?
Probably up there. I mean,
he's got to be top 3. Has to be.
That's a tough one, man. You're asking good questions. Who's I like that guy, the new guy at hold on, I just saw it the other day. I'll think of it.
You go to games? Like, you go actually and hang out in the stadium? Like, how
used to.
Right?
I haven't done that in a while. The last one I went with friends. My wife and I went with friends to a Titans game.
Okay.
That was probably over a year ago, I think. Yeah. That was maybe a year and a half ago or something like that. Maybe. Yeah, I think it's about that long now. That was a blast. Yeah, but not nearly as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
I've always loved football. It's an awesome sport.
Yeah, we'll take it from one of Mick Mars's singers, Brion Gamboa, to one of Canada's best punk rock bands, period, all time. Gob's drummer, Gabe Mantle. Now, you've heard Gob, of course, on any good Canadian rock radio station since the mid-90s, right? They've been around since 93. They're from Langley, BC, so as Vancouver, we could say, yeah, local boys. They're local boys. Being that this podcast, of course, is based in Vancouver. I played the hell out of those guys, Gob, back in the day when I was DJing at CFox. So it's 99.3 The Fox here, the city's big rock station. And Gabe actually talked a bit about that when we jumped to Zoom, the power of radio back in the days, like in the late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing, right? I have known those guys, Gob, since the late 90s. I did a hilarious promotion with those guys on the radio station I worked at. I took the band to a listener's house, interviewed them, had them play in the listener's living room. And of course, if you follow Gob or you know them at all, like the debauchery that followed after that is almost legendary. So it was great to get Gabe on the cast, and we talked about way more than just music, of course, right? Like, he talked about seeing a UFO while out on tour. Crazy story. Taking a leak, stops on the side of the road, and there it was. He talked about binging Better Call Saul and Workaholics. We talked about the Vancouver Canucks and the NFL, comic books, Spider-Man, and Archie. Archie comics came up. So did seeing the Police in concert. And Gabe talked about what it is about his band he thinks that their longevity in the music industry.
Oh, who knows about that? Let me think. Again, I mean, I think, with music is what it comes down to is the songs. Let's face it, right? Like, I mean,
sure.
And, like Tom and Theo, they're both like such great songwriters. And there's like such a, there's a really quite a lengthy list of great songs that they've written. And even, doing the Painted Black cover, we've done some cool songs. And I think that those songs, when you listen to them, even now they stand up. And
no, I was just doing that. I was just playing some Gob songs for my oldest. We Give Up the Grudge and I Hear You Calling, and like they're fucking great songs, man. Like they stand the test of time, like straight up.
They stand up. So what am I going to tell you? I mean, to me, it's about the
Yeah.
what I'm going to tell you. I'm like a purist. I believe that the music does the talking. Like it's and the songs have they stand up, and so to me, that's the reason that people still care. Like. But also, I want to tell you, like, I feel like, we come from the days where, people, we still sold, hard, what I call hard records or whatever. It's like, it's an actual record. Or something
like physical copy in my hand.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So those bands that were in those days, it seems like they are doing better now still because, it seems like that music is actually in people's hands. It's not just in the digital world or whatever it is. And I feel like that has a somewhat to do with it. I mean,
I think so too. I think some of it's also a little bit of nostalgia too, right? Like you listen to those bands you played when you were like mid-20s, and they're still amazing bands. Like still to this day, still one of the best bands.
Yeah, and I mean, there also is we were talking about this with some of my other bandmates in about the 10 other bands I play in.
Right.
And we were just talking about how it's like kind of in like maybe early 2000s, it's like music started or stopped sounding as good. Like, I mean, we came from the days of recording to analog and to tape when you recorded the 2-inch tape or 1/4-inch tape or whatever tape it was, and that sound, that sound quality that you had back in those days, it just made things just sound so amazing. And it's really, you can't, like in the digital world, I feel like they're getting pretty close. Things are great, but it isn't those old days. Like, and when you listen to Led Zeppelin kind of thing, and
sure,
listen to AC/DC, and you listen to Gob, I don't want to put us with gods like that, but I'm just saying, like,
sure,
it's that that sound of that natural sound. It just, there's something about it. It's like, I think that helps. I think that helps our music carry on as well. Honestly, I do. I think recording in the old way, having the hard disc or whatever, and just like those are the things that I think help carry us on. And of course, again, the songs that resonate with people. Even now, it's so many times I get emails and the band gets emails and just people like, oh, this changed my life, and those things like, you saved my life, and all those kind of things. And you're like, oh my God, like, wow, I didn't realize we were that, meant that much to people. But
and really though, Gabe nails it, right? Like Gob's music is timeless. A huge Canadian band in the grand scheme of things when you really start to pick it apart. Like multiple Juno Award nominations. They won Best New Group in 2001. They are known for their energetic live shows, like so many radio hits, and a dedicated, loyal fan base. It's simple math. Gabe talked about the music that was in his house as a kid growing up when we jumped Zoom. Talked about being influenced by bands like early on, like ABBA. ABBA, really? Bob Marley, the Rolling Stones. Of course, you'd think the Stones. We talked a bit about gambling, hologram tours, touring with the Warped Tour. Specifically, he shared a great Green Day story. Star Wars and Star Trek came up. So did a driving near-death story where Tom from Gob, I don't want to ruin it, so find that in the full-length interview through iTunes and wherever you listen, Spotify or Megaphone or wherever you listen, or of course on our YouTube page as well. Gabe shared the story of one of his favorite times playing on stage with another band.
It's funny. It was like, let me think. Okay, straight up, one of the most fun times that I ever had. We were playing this kind of festival thing up in Kelowna, and Sloan
at the Regatta.
Yeah, exactly.
You fucking played the Regatta.
We played the Regatta, and it was Sloan was the headliner, and then Gob, and then By a Thread was another band.
I remember By a Thread. That was a Vancouver band.
Another Vancouver band that I'm playing in as well now.
Oh, no way! I didn't know that there's still
coming. And
okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, dude, I'll pass it on to you as soon as we get it done. We're almost done. We're almost there. It's just a couple more songs that John's doing the vocals on, and it's sounding really good. Like, I'm really proud of it. We put everything into it. But anyways,
that's cool.
Another Joe was on the show. Or sorry, not another. By a Thread was on the show, and Sloan was on it. And so we did our show, and it was cool. It was a great show. Like, it was like kind of like Gob at their peak, like.
Yeah.
Kind of like at the I Hear You Calling days, right? It was just like right there. And, we rocked and blah, blah, blah. But then Sloan came on, and we're sitting side stage. And they're like, Chris or whatever was like, during the show, right in the middle of the show, he's like, Gabe, come and play a song with us. So I'm like, okay. I mean, like, what's
this is not planned, right? Like, you're just...
like Money City Maniacs, because I was like, I love that song. Down, 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 I'm found. I'm like, okay, like that was like, that was on the radio on the Fox.
Yeah, well, that was the song that started with that siren at the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And
it always got me. I was, driving in the car.
And I got up there and I got played the show, not the show, but I played that song with them, and it was so cool. It was like, that to me was like, that meant everything, because like I said, that was, the Fox, the Fox meant a lot to anyone who was into rock and roll at all in Vancouver back in the day. Like, let's face it. Now I don't know, but back in the day, that was everyone listened to it, even if you're a punk rocker, and you know what I mean. Everyone, Fox is a big thing, and that's where we kind of learned about rock and roll. It's like and Sloan. That's how I heard about Sloan, and that's how I heard that song. And
Sloan brings it live, right? Like, those guys bring it. Man.
Oh my God,
Three different singers,
one of the best bands I've ever seen.
Rotate from position to position.
Yeah, exactly. They're all going.
They're
all going back and forth. And you know what? Those guys, it's like I don't know if they love Gob the same way as I love them, but because we're like their baby, we're like their bastard. Or their bastard nephews or something, but we love them, and we really, and that meant everything to me. So to me, that was the number one of all time, jamming with another band or kind of being a part of it. But I mean, it was a lot of times that, on the Warped Tour, stuff like that. We'd have like, Fletcher from, like there'd be other bands just sitting on the side of the stage, and like, our bass players of bass would fuck up, and they would jump on and like help us. And
Toddcast Podcast musical guest visits are powered by the Hawkins Sound Ranch. Use their 20+ years of experience to record at their state-of-the-art studio. Commercial sound on an indie budget. Visit thehawkinssoundranch.com for more.
Don't know where my heart is at, feeling like I had a heart attack. Well, you think you know me better than I know me. Woke up to face the fact I can't live like that. I'm killing the old me, just like you told me. You don't got no pride, can't look me in the eyes. You think you own me when you're only lonely. I think you need to know it's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't bring me down. Don't know where my heart will go. You love me, then you left me cold. You think you know you better than I know you. Cold touch of a concubine, chills running down my spine, killing me slowly. Blue eyes stars are frozen. You did it for the high, took my heart for a ride. You think you own me when you're only lonely. I think you need to know it's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't bring me down. It's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't bring me down. I think you need to know right now this has nothing to do with you. I think you need to know right now this has nothing to do with you. Hey! It's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't bring me down. It's too late, it's too late. You won't stop me now. It's too late, it's too late. You won't bring me down.
And now, stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
Entrepreneur, author, and WBFF fitness pro Diana Shalot is well known for her online fitness training, conferences, and retreats. She owns Hitch Fit Gym in Kansas City, and they work with people in over 70 countries, helping transform their bodies and lives by adopting a healthy lifestyle. And when you heard Diana on the podcast, she talked about her 5-year goals, talked about keynote speaking, binging The Bachelor. We talked about cheat foods and personal trainers, seeing Dave Matthews Band in concert, growing up in Vermont, playing basketball as a kid, cheering on the NFL Chiefs, meeting famous people like Mario Lopez and Emmitt Smith. She even shared a near-death story. And stop me if you've heard this before, Diana talked about nutrition and her approach to meal planning.
I do. Yeah. We've been online my husband, Micah, and I, we have an online personal training platform. We've worked with people online for 14 years. We were one of the very first in the online training space. So yeah, we put together people's nutrition and their workouts, and we've helped literally thousands of people over the years just, work on those new habits and, whether it's weight loss or building muscle, and go through, their own personal transformations. So yeah, I do that for them, and I do that for myself as well. Mm-hmm. I would say my approach is just a balanced approach to eating. That's kind of what I've always done. I had my own transformation journey back in 2005. I was 50 pounds overweight and 50 pounds more than I am now. And it was just, I was miserable, and I didn't feel well. I wasn't happy with how my body looked or how my body felt. So I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, I have to change, what I'm doing. And a lot of that was eating. I had very unhealthy eating habits. And so that's what I did. I changed everything, and I started to see my body change, and I literally never have gone back because I enjoy this and I enjoy how this feels. So I never want to go back to what I was doing before.
Yeah, fair enough. And so what were the unhealthy eating habits? Like, it was just like eating too much or the wrong things, or like eating after 10 at night, or like, what was it?
Yes, it was
like all the above.
A little bit of all. Yes, yeah. All those. I had a major issue with compulsive overeating. So it was one of those things. And a lot of people struggle with this. It's a hidden behavior. And so, sometimes people will be like, oh, I eat healthy. I don't know why I'm losing weight. But then they have hidden behaviors where they're getting into the closet at night and they're, eating a whole bag of chips or cookies, or just kind of binging at night when no one is watching. And that's what I would do. I would basically starve myself throughout the day. I would get to the point where I was so hungry, and at the end of the night night, I would just kind of have this really terrible behavior of just massively over consuming. And it came from a place of, sadness. And, I was struggling with some just a little bit of, I don't call it depression, but it was kind of on the verge of that. And so for me, setting this goal and then developing the discipline that it took to achieve that goal, especially with my eating habits, it changed my body, but it also gave me this freedom. Like, it was like I felt so trapped by that behavior. So when I figured out, oh, wait, I can change my mind about this, I can discipline my behaviors, it kind of opened up this freedom for me of just like, I could, breathe and relax and know that I could absolutely control all my eating behaviors. And, that just, it opened up so many more doors for me too. But it was more that just like, oh, okay, I do have control of this behavior and I can make great choices and do something more with my life too.
Stop Me If You've Heard This Before on the Toddcast podcast is powered by FKP MMA, Vancouver's #1 training destination at fkpmma.com. And now, highlighting our next Blue Light Sessions, powered in part by Canadian Club Whiskey. Meet your new cold one. We serve Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktails at all of our live shows. Visit canadianclub.com today.
Guess I'll let you borrow my crown. Keep it till the gold rusts into brown and the jewels fall off and smash into the ground. Hand me down emotions, your thrift and your thoughts. I don't need your light, I can see in the dark. I'm just a rug you ash your cigarettes on. I'm just a mat you wipe your dirty boots on. Just a fire you warm your cold hands on. I said it, don't forget it. You poured the gasoline on. Now who you gonna lean on? Put my armor on to come around you. I got a heart to protect that belongs to me. Thicker the steel, the bigger the heart. Let me know if you agree. Hand me down emotions, your thrift and your thoughts. I don't need your light, I can see in the dark. I'm just a rug you ash your cigarettes on. I'm just a mat you wipe your dirty boots on. Just a fire you warm your cold hands on. I said it, don't forget it. You poured the gasoline on. Now who you gonna lean on? Pour the gasoline on. Now who you gonna lean on? You pour the gasoline on. Now who you gonna lean on?
Right on. Looking forward to catching those guys in their live performance. The band is called Good Goin', and their song is See in the Dark. It is new to the podcast, a first spin, in fact, and we are fired up to have them play for the next podcast, Blue Light Sessions, at the end of the month, or close to the end of the month, on Friday, May 24. So May 24, it's the Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver with Good Goin' and the Sweet Pomelos. 45-minute sets each with the interview, the performance as well. I will interview the bands, but of course, as always, you get to ask questions of the band, get them to maybe play cover songs, or hell, we've even had people come up and jam with the bands as well. Intimate, interactive. Buy early right now through eventbrite.ca. Eventbrite.ca. Search Toddcast Podcast. You can't miss our shows. They're $20 in advance or $25 at the door. Doors are at 7. Show starts at 8-ish. Played you Chase the Bear. That's a great song for them called Too Late. Man, I dig that band. Thought you might as well. They've played a podcast show for us. Believe me, if you hear them coming to your neck of the woods, do the effort. Make the effort to be there to see this band. One of Vancouver's elite, you could almost say, within that rock genre. All right, so coming up in just a few minutes, in Listen to This, Canucks PA announcer Al Murdoch shares how he landed that job, and holy crap, he is one of the best. That is powered by 8-year sponsor, 8 years in a row. A huge reason why we're able to continue creating this podcast. Tedco RV Supplies out in Langley. RV service, repairs, ICBC accredited. You can find them on Facebook and on Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. First, let's get back to more guest highlights in this best of podcast and some of our recent sporting guests, all of whom are powered by Hand Over Hand Textiles in Vancouver. All of the stuff that they make, by the way, is handmade, naturally dyed goods for your home, for your body. Everything is top quality. Whether you want a blanket or pillowcases or t-shirts or bandanas and socks and dishcloths, like I said, it's all handmade, all of their stuff. Put the order in and they will bang it off for you. And they only use pure plant extracts and natural fibers. It's actually truly good for Mom Earth. Locally owned, locally operated here in Vancouver. Find them through handoverhandtextiles.com. They're also kicking around on Instagram. So you've heard Mr. Tequila on this podcast since we launched back in 2015. If you listened to my radio show on CFox between like maybe 2007, 2008, and right before I got let go in 2014, you heard Tequila there as well. He would call up from time to time and just go off. I mean, he would go off about the Vancouver Canucks and all the local sports like the Lions and, you know, the Whitecaps and more Canucks than anything. But he would always have something about that team, about the Canucks and news on that team, whether that most, if not all local radio shows wouldn't have, or at least he'd scooped them by a couple of hours. Believe me, I have no idea. Maybe he had somehow he had an in with the team. From there, it kind of branched into anything and everything. He literally rants about nothing is safe at this point from Tequila's wrath. He will rant about anything. And people seem to really like it. He definitely is outspoken. He can ruffle some feathers. I call it passion. And this time around, Tequila talked about jinxes in sports, Canada's school curriculum. We talked about family. And he also addressed how the Canucks were kicking. And I mean, they were dominating this year, were they not? And when he was a guest, the Canucks were the number one team in the NHL.
Your Vancouver Canucks are first in the NHL. Like, hello, what? Holy fuck. But yeah, it's awesome. It's a good time to be a Canucks fan. I'm just glad that we got a guy like Rutherford. This is a Rutherford team. These are Rutherford moves that he made. And I like how he just gutted the team. We went from car wash to contender in one season.
That's crazy.
Right?
Didn't they just sign him to another 3-year or 4-year deal?
Totally. Yes. Even though it's Alvin that's making the deals, they're basically putting together the Pittsburgh Penguins of like 2016, 2017 when they went back-to-back cups. We have a similar team to that, where you got your 5 core players and you just plug the gaps with good penalty killers, a couple of defensive players, bigger defensemen, and then getting Hronek. Like, hello, wow, was that the pick of the year? We won that trade.
And Zadorov as well. Like, these are just massive human beings.
Massive. Totally. And well, we went to the game. We saw how big that guy is in person. Him and Myers, those guys are massive. Like, we got a big team, man. So I think that just some of the changes that they made is why we're so effective. And again, a full year with Tocchet. Tocchet's all big on accountability and whatnot. And he really challenged these guys in the summer, keeping in contact, making sure they're ready to go. Because the last couple of seasons, we were actually doing okay. It was just a shitty start. You start the season 0-8, it's too hard to come back from, right? By the time we got our shit together, we're out of the playoffs, long out of the playoffs. This year, our boys were well conditioned, challenged by Tocchet, and anybody from Demko to Miller to all these guys. Besser, look at Besser, complete turnaround. The guy's back to being an absolute sniper. And look at all the people saying we should have got rid of Miller. Look at Miller. Miller's awesome. I don't care what anybody says.
Miller, like now hindsight, like Miller looks pretty damn good over Horvat.
Totally. Everyone was bitching. Look at the way. Look at how pissed off Miller gets when it's a loss. That's what you need to see from your captain, Bo Horvat. We never once saw that. Bo Horvat was used to losing. Right. Oh yeah, well that's bullshit. You smashing sticks like fucking Miller was. He cares about it, right? Yeah. Now that's spread.
Hughes was smashing his stick on the bench there the other night.
Yes, those guys blew a 3-goal lead. They know they're good when they play their game, and if they take the foot off the pedal for 2 minutes, they know that can cost them now. right?
Yeah.
We got 4 lines rolling. 4 lines is a very good problem to have. Plus, when we come to the playoffs, you're playing top 4 D, so Hughes or Hronek are going to be on the ice every shift when we come to the playoffs. You know what I mean? We've never, ever had a guy like Quinn Hughes, ever. We've never had a defense. We've had Pavel Bure, yes, the greatest ever. We've had our Trevor Lindens. We've had City. We've had Luongo. We've never had a bona fide superstar a la near Bobby or Quinn Hughes.
Really, truly, and what a year it has been for the Vancouver Canucks, especially as a longtime fan of that team. Apparently, there was a lot to go over and go off about. By the way, last time Tequila was a guest, because just kind of looking over what we talked about, police brutality came up. So did Canadian and U.S. politics, Vancouver snow days, Motley Crue's arbitration with Mick Mars, and Tequila talked about Messi and European soccer and buying season's tickets to the Vancouver Whitecaps.
I got a little bit. I had to get in on the Messi sweepstakes, so I got a season ticket holder for the Whitecaps this year.
Okay.
Because my kid's favorite player is Messi, and he's supposed to come to town May 25th.
Right.
And apparently, the only way you could probably secure tickets is buying fucking season tickets.
Tickets, which really for the Whitecaps, it's not really that expensive.
It's not even that bad. So it was $800 for 19
which is
games.
Like fucking nothing, man. That's like
that's not
like four games to the Canucks.
Totally. The Canuck games are they're fucking pretty pricey. That's our fucking favorite sport. But again, we go to the games in Europe, and dude, it's a different animal even back there. It was like I was regretting even bringing my kid to the game. I'm like, are we even gonna fucking get out of here? They're shooting Roman candles.
No.
So you got one team in this. It's a city. Sofia is the city. So there's 2 teams that absolutely hate each other from the same city. So they have to play this game at a central arena, so a soccer stadium that's not favorable to either of them.
Yeah.
So then the one half is Levski, and the other half is Sisika, the team that we like. And then it's separated. They have a section of seats that are separated so that they can put the riot police there. So they're just chanting, and they're going fucking crazy. These fans are fucking nuts. This is just some Bulgarian league, and they're going mental. Shooting Roman candles at each other, right? So you see one come down and everyone's just cheering. It was holy fuck, the guy almost got in the head. It's yeah. It's it was just so normal, right? Smoking, rain, crowd. Yeah, so it was a little crazy. I did see some footage where even the home team lost, and they shit the bed hard. It was 4-0, they lost. The fucking fans jumped the gate and pulled the jersey off the players.
No.
Right there.
From our resident sports loudmouth, Mr. Tequila, to a model turned race car driver, Kristen Strout. You've likely known about, or certainly have seen Kristen over the years in fashion campaigns and magazine covers. And when Kristen was a guest, we talked about keeping up with social media, how she drives an Infiniti G37 as her day-to-day, or is that a G37? I think it's a 37. Seeing Evanescence, Seether, and 3 Days Grace in concert. She talked about real estate and how she flips houses. And Kristen talked about the music that was in her life as a kid growing up through to present day.
I love rock music. I've always been a rocker chick. Yeah. And I hate that I feel like it's dying. I'm no,
it's not dying. No.
It's not as big as it used to be, though. I feel like kids nowadays, our age, people my age and whatever, they still like it, right? But I feel like the younger generation is what is this crap? I'm it's the best music ever.
Totally. But then you listen to their shit and you're like, what is this? You're talking about what this crap is? Yeah. This guy's mumbling. I can't hear a thing, man.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I absolutely love rock. I like country now too. I'm here in Nashville.
Yeah. What's his name? Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, he's huge now. Yeah.
So good. It's crazy. It's crazy how good he is.
Yeah.
I'm not a country guy at all, but this past summer was a Morgan Wallen summer in my house.
Well, I feel like country's it's gotten a lot more mainstream and rocky, even a lot of
yeah, totally.
It was funny. There's one kind of new guy that has recently come out, and I see people commenting, "Oh my gosh, you created a new amazing genre. It sounds kind of like a rock, but you're talking about country stuff. So it's country rock." And I was he literally sounds exactly like Nickelback. I'm guys, this has been around for 20 years. He's not starting something new, I promise.
Yeah. Well, didn't Nickelback just did that big tour with a couple really big countries? What? When they announced that, I was like, what is going on?
Everybody hates on them, and I'm you cannot deny they were freaking good.
Nickelback's amazing. Those guys, if you see them live, like and truly give them your time, you'll walk away a fan.
Yeah.
You will. There's just no way around it. They're that good.
Kid Rock did that to me. I was not a big Kid Rock fan,
really?
but he was live at a concert, and I was just like, the way he commanded that stage and his like personality, I was like, I love him.
Don't you just love finding out about the music that people listen to? It really can shed some light on that person, or at least I like it anyway. So from modeling to race car driving, Kristen talked about that world a lot, carving out a niche for herself. The competition is, of course, fierce, as you would expect. Everything is just so intense, and your adrenaline is just ripping and heart's pounding. And you heard us take Kristen into other parts of her life as well, like growing up on naval bases, living in Nashville. She shared a near-death motorcycle story and how she played in the LFL, the Lingerie Football League. We talked about how she's into automotive tech, and Kristen said that nothing comes close to the adrenaline rush of racing cars.
I thought track days were so much fun and I love them, but an actual race, nothing like it, 10 times more. Like, and because I had done like open passing at track days, but still no one really like got as close and as aggressive as like they did in actual racing. And that was like kind of new to me, or like getting off my line and like adjusting like to that sometimes got kind of scary because I'm like off. I don't know if I can take this turn now. But it was just, yeah, the adrenaline rush and whatever was amazing. Like our stints were 2-hour stints, like at that race. And I remember my mom's like, I would be so bored, like driving around the same track for like 2 hours. And I was like,
no, Mom,
no way. And I was like, it went by so fast. It's funny because I'm like, there's no way that was like 2 hours. I'm like, I feel like I just got in the car.
And we'll go from a model turned race car driver in Kristen Strout to a retired NHL goaltender and mental health advocate in Corey Hirsch. Corey is one of Canada's best goaltenders ever when you start stacking them up. He played for a few teams in the NHL, the Stars, the Capitals, the Rangers, of course here in Vancouver with the Canucks from 95 through 99, played alongside of Kirk McLean at the time. But before getting to the bigs, of course, he had to carve his way to get there, right? Playing with the Blazers in the WHL, drafted in 91 by the Rangers. That same year, named the CHL Goaltender of the Year, President's Cup the next year, the Memorial Cup, played with the Rangers affiliate, was named the league's top goalie, had the lowest goals against average as well. So listen to what Corey said about realizing his true potential to maybe play professional hockey.
Probably really started recognizing when I was about 13 or 14. You're just so much better than everybody else. And that's not being, bragging or being arrogant. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Like people just couldn't score on you.
Yeah, like Connor Bedard. I mean, I wasn't as good as Connor Bedard, but I mean, they just you dominated every level, right? And so you have a pretty good idea. I would say, 90% of the NHL, those guys were the best players in their league, on their teams, in their cities, right? I mean, they were just always that talented. And there are some, there's a lot that don't get drafted that are still good players. That bloom a little later, but for the most part, it's typically the kids that they're the ones that dominate, are going to have the opportunity to, and then a lot of things have to happen along the line, right? I mean, coaches have to like you, you have to get on good teams, you have to have good players around you. Like there's so much that has to happen to be able to play in the NHL. It's ridiculous.
But you knew fairly early, like 13, 14, that's pretty early.
Yeah. You wouldn't say it's the NHL. You knew you're going to play.
But you know you're
good. Yeah. You're good. You're better than, most every year because you're going to summer camps. You're getting invited to junior camps. You're getting invited you have a good idea of your level anyways, or the opportunity. And then it's after that, it's probably better that you don't know what's happening to you, right? Like, cause you just get kind of shot out of a cannon into the professional sports world.
It is true though, right? What he said, the kids that are going to, or at least have the potential to maybe play pro sports, they're just so much better than the rest, right? Like you can see it immediately. And you go watch any kids sports, and there's always that one kid or the two kids who just destroy the competition. They're just that much better. And oh, by the way, Corey's career stats, including a goals against of 3.11 and a save percent of 899 during his time with the Vancouver Canucks. Thank you, stats guy. Great to talk with Corey as a longtime fan, of course, of the Vancouver Canucks, and get into a whole lot of things as well. Like, he talked about growing up in Calgary. We talked about food and binge watching the World Series of Poker. He talked specifically about Peter Forsberg and Mark Messier. Superstitions came up. So did superpowers. Growing up with the music of Tina Turner and Kiss, Prince and Elvis Presley. He shared a near-death story about his time going over and living in Romania. And as mentioned earlier on in the podcast, you'll know Corey for being a big advocate for mental health awareness. His book, called The Save of My Life, My Journey Out of the Dark, is all about his struggles. And he talked about how his podcast, called Blindsided, was created with the goal of helping others.
Yeah. It's been very powerful, very powerful. It can be a tough listen sometimes. There's a lot of struggle and a lot of pain with the people that we interviewed, but the stories are incredible, and how the resilience at the end of it, how they come through it. A better person has been that's what makes it all worth it.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
Found it, but I was nowhere around it when you called. I listened to your message, not the words, but how you said it, sad and small. So on a dead house. We've been waiting till the
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
You gotta love Al Murdoch's Instagram bio. Voice actor, announcer for daytime, #Emmy award-winning @JudyJustice, #PA announcer @Canucks, @Abby Canucks, father, husband, friend. The only thing missing from that bio is beauty. I think I've told you this story before. Al's show back in the day on AM 730 CKLG, The Afternoon Drive, is a key reason I became an on-air ninja in radio. Heavy production, lots of moving pieces, continuous flow. He is an absolute beast. Of course, present day, the fact that Al's the PA announcer for the Canucks is likely why you know him. Does the Winter Classics, the All-Star Game as well. Simply put, he is one of the best announcers of any sport. And when Al popped by the studio to be a guest, we touched on so much stuff. Talked about hearing Led Zeppelin for the first time, his favorite movie genre. We touched on his time with the Vancouver Grizzlies, if you remember the team we had here in Vancouver. We talked about radio and if you'd ever go back. We got into the shows that he was binge watching at the time. We bagged on Selena Gomez a little bit, talked about triathlons, overrated bands. And I mean, if you get the chance to talk with Al Murdoch, you gotta ask him how he became the rink PA announcer for the Vancouver Canucks. Listen to this.
Well, the PA job came to be, at least for the Canucks, probably because of my relationship with the same people that are there from the Vancouver Grizzlies days. Fast forward to 3 years ago, I'm away on vacation with the family. We come back, we land, literally we're getting into the car, we're driving home, and I get a call from the Canucks saying that John Ashbridge, the legendary Ash, who's been the PA announcer there for 26, 27 years, had a little bit of a health scare, and he was in the hospital, and they said, can you do the game tonight?
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies.
You picking up the same vibe that the next live podcast show is going to be freaking outstanding? That band is called the Sweet Pomelos, and their song is Walk With You. Yet another first spin for the podcast. In fact, that's a world premiere. It's never been played online or on radio, streaming, wherever before now. They, as mentioned earlier on, they're opening up the night for our next live podcast show, the Blue Light Sessions, on Friday, May 2-4, Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver. Good going will headline the night, and these nights fly by. If you've been, you know. So we open up the doors at 7 o'clock, but do come, before the bands start to play. They play at around 8:15, 8:20, something like that. But come before and crack a Red Truck beer or a nude beverage or a Canadian club. We get some sponsor synergy going on at these shows. Fire up, as mentioned, at around 8:15, something like that. Both bands will get a 45-minute set, intimate, interactive. If you buy early, you'll save $5 through eventbrite.ca, $25 at the door. Speaking of live shows, the live music, find a list of indie shows you should be checking out beyond, of course, our live shows. We'd love you to see it at our shows too, with the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If your band's playing a show, if you're checking it out, let me know about it and we'll post it up at the website for free of charge. But you need to get me the info and the music, and maybe we'll even play a song on the podcast for you as well. You heard a new song, speaking of new stuff, you heard a new song for a band called Fear of Houses, and that's called Dead House. And if you're hearing that one going like, why do I recognize that guy's voice? That's Jordan Carrier, who's been in and around Vancouver's music scene for years and years. I would dare to say at least a decade, maybe even like 15, something like that. Everything that he's done over the years, by the way, has been top drawer. So honestly, not sure how long that he's been banging out with this new band. Again, they're called Fear of Houses. But I would think it would be at least a year or two anyway. He sent me a song last year that was absolutely deadly, and loving the new sound that Jordan is bringing back to Vancouver scene. Okay, so let's get to our final guests of this episode 332. Our entertainment and lifestyle guests are now powered by Humane Solutions, and I've mentioned this before. I had a problem with rats getting into my house. It was between the main floor and the basement ceiling, and it wasn't very often that you would hear them, but you would hear them. Their little feet scurrying across the ceiling, and maybe they'd have like the odd squabble and chirp, and the thought of it is, it's kind of creepy, right? So anyway, I hired a company originally, and they'd set out some traps, and the rats remained. And then I talked to a buddy named Jamie who used Humane Solutions for his rat problem. I guess he had some problems around the front step of his house or whatever. And so they found all the entry points and they blocked all of them except for one. And I was like, that's the way it should be done. That's interesting. Then they put a one-way door on the last entry point so that the rats could leave, but they couldn't get back in. And once they're out, they close up the last entry point, and it's simple, right? So trust them, proven leaders. I'm quite embarrassed, actually, to be honest, that I didn't use them from the start. Get a quote today for your place or your business through humanesolutions.ca. So hypnotherapy is the idea of focused attention, heightened relaxation, transformative, holistic healing. You'll find that some people use it to address a variety of things when you look into it, like anxiety and phobias. And some people have actually said they've quit smoking because of it. They've even lost weight because of hypnotherapy. Apparently, it can be truly a mind-body experience. And when hypnotherapist and Reiki master teacher Magda Baptista joined us on Zoom, she talked about the key benefits that you'll experience if you do hypnotherapy.
We come into this world, if you look at the newborn, they're so happy, or they cry and they get what they want, they demand and they get what they need. And then with time and our experiences, we develop these fears. So depending on how the parents react to the child falling down, like, when they start walking and they fall, if the parent doesn't really react, the child will look at the parent and be like, okay, it's okay if I fall, I'll just stand back up. But if the parent is like freaking out, oh my God, did you hurt yourself? Then the child stays with that fear in their brain. And now he associates falling with some kind of fear. Like it could be really bad because my parents are reacting to this. So that becomes a subconscious programming. And then later in life, we don't know why we're afraid of heights or why we're afraid of moving like something on our path. And when we do the hypnotherapy, we bring the patient, the client back into this state where they're able to see it from a bird's eye view and see there's no danger here. It's perfectly normal. And then we change that programming, and now you're no longer afraid of going up or down the stairs or whatever it is that you had as a fear. So yeah, that's the interesting part about hypnotherapy.
I guess when you think about it, it really does kind of make sense, right? Everything is just so aligned. And in terms of Reiki, that's the spiritual healing that originated in Japan. And you've probably seen it, that where the practitioner places their hands lightly over or near the person's body. And this is to channel healing energy. And Reiki is all about relaxation. It's said to reduce stress and support your body's natural healing process. Of course, we talked in depth about both hypnotherapy and Reiki with Magda. I talked about other things as well, like why it's important to set goals or adapting to technology, ambition, and teaching kids. She shared her story of seeing Britney Spears in concert. We talked about self-esteem, piano, negativity, and Magda talked about social media and if she feels pressure to be a positive role model.
No, I love it. I love it. I love being the role model because I feel like I'm able to lead through my actions. And the more I lead through my actions, the more I better my life. So it's not a pressure, it's more a lifestyle. It's what I choose to be. And this is why I was talking about authenticity before. When you're authentic, you no longer feel that pressure to pretend to be someone that you're not. I was recently at a Tony Robbins event as a crew member. I was helping out and cheering people on. And people would come to me and they're like, how do you have all that energy all day long? We're exhausted. I'm like, because it's my lifestyle. I don't pretend to be this happy, joyful, energetic person. I am a physical educator. I believe in moving your body for health purposes. And so I adopt that lifestyle. If anybody travels with me and they ask me if I want to take a cab, I always say, can we walk there?
Totally right.
And I'll walk there. And they're like, no, it's too far. I'm like, how far is it? Or how close is it? I don't want to waste my time in a cab. I want to see everything. So I'll walk and see. And at the same time, I get my steps in. So it's a lifestyle. It's the way you choose to see things.
From a hypnotherapist and Reiki master in Magda Baptista to a health and fitness expert named Aeryon Ashlie. She's the CEO of Aeryon Wellness, a Canadian entrepreneur. She went on Dragon's Den, was offered a deal, and then turned it down. We follow each other on social media. The industry, I guess, just kind of tends to do that. So there was a point in time when Aeryon was doing health and wellness features on radio here in Vancouver. So I've kept up with Aeryon for years. She's just inspiring. She does incredible things, super positive. She's a CHN and CBT, clinical hypnotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, an author, keynote speaker, powerful and humble among it all. And she's funny. As we talked about Christian music in her house as a kid growing up, the Canucks and Taylor Swift, watching the Raptors live, the idea of fame. She wanted to be famous when she was younger. Her career highlights and how it involves boric acid.
Oh gosh, I have so many. Winning Launchpad at CHFA was definitely a career highlight. So we won Innovative Product of the Year with Up and Away, which is our 100% boric acid. I was the very first company in Canada to launch a kit with an applicator in a box. And okay, I'll tell you the story behind it because I spoke about it the other day at the summit. So I spoke at the summit for the forum and I talked about rock bottoms. And I said, one of my rock bottoms, this is my favorite rock bottom. So it's my favorite rock bottom, but my favorite highlight as well. So I had been dating somebody for quite some time. We had a long-term monogamous relationship. He didn't get the memo on that. And the last
kind of gave it away
year of our relationship, he was with everybody. And the worst part was everybody knew but me. And I remember crying to my mom on the phone and just like, I was devastated. My body ached, just like I was just devastated. He lived with us. So it was my daughter that was affected as well. It was just awful. And my mom's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'm like, Mom, everybody knew. Like everybody knew but me. It was so embarrassing. And then she's like, everything's going to be okay. I'm like, okay, it can't get any worse. But 2 weeks later, I found out he gave me chlamydia. So then, I did 2 rounds of antibiotics just to be safe. So chlamydia, everything's fine. Everything's fine. But then what ended up happening is it decimated my vaginal pH. So a woman's vagina is supposed to be a 3.5, super acidic. If it becomes more alkaline, that's when you become a yeast infection. That's itchy, discharge, uncomfortable, no fun. That's around a 5, right? So we're 3.5. It goes up to around a 5. That's yeast infection. If it becomes more alkaline, you get bacterial vaginosis. So no, how your listeners are like, wonderful. What are we learning today? So there's no.
They're like, what a way to wrap this up.
No, itchy and uncomfortable, but there's a smell to it. It's still no fun. So after round and round of antibiotics for that, 6 months worth, I finally scored an appointment with a gynecologist, and I walked in and like shared my vaginal and emotional woes and everything. And she just was like, boric acid. I'm like, what? And she's like, boric acid. At the time, nobody sold any. So I drove from pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy, finding somewhere to compound it for me. And I got my boric acid, put it in my little drawer. It worked within 2 days. It was amazing. I was like, wow, this stuff is incredible. Fast forward 5 years later, I'd started Aeryon Wellness. I was driving across the Lionsgate Bridge just before you hit the lines when you're coming into downtown. And this thought came to my mind. It was like, is anybody selling boric acid? Because it wasn't a prescription. I scored the NPN for it, natural product number, which is what you have to have. I struggled with the name because a lot of the name in that category are Vagi or Gyna, and I'm like, not doing that. I was making my bed, and in my mind, I went up and away as I threw my duvet in the air, and I was like, it's up and away because you put it up and it goes away. It's a vaginal suppository. So 4 months later, I found myself on stage pitching to 150 retailers and judges. It's kind of like our version of Dragon's Den. And I had on the screen, whenever the word vagina came up, everybody had to scream vagina, which you don't know how much people love to scream that word. So everybody screamed vagina, and I went on to win $25,000. I won Innovative Product of the Year, and I was able to dedicate it to Michaela, my daughter, because she is the one who sacrifices the most in my venture, because I'm always focusing on work. So that would have been a high moment, but it was a rock bottom. So I also say this too. I'm like, I've never been so happy that somebody cheated on me and gave me chlamydia. It's my number 3 best-selling product. I make a ton of money on it. I have helped women all across Canada. And the irony is he owns a health food store now. And I've always wondered if he carries up and away and he has no idea that it came from him.
Right. He very well could. That'd be hilarious.
That was definitely a highlight and a great story to always know that these rock bottom moments when we think there is no hope, that they are the moments we can learn and grow, and we need them. Whenever I get one now, when I have something really challenging show up, I'm like, okay, what am I going to learn this time? So I view it in a very different light.
Right? Like the best story. There's no way. I bet Buddy has no idea, or he might, I guess, now. And do some digging on Aeryon Wellness, and you'll love the holistic approach, the care to finding mental and emotional well-being. I'm truly inspired by what Aeryon is all about and has built. Truly a juggernaut who talked about her own eating disorder and overcoming that. She shared her story about seeing Madonna in concert, how she loves binging Love is Blind. And I fought myself with this, or whether I was going to play this or not for you, and just kind of leave it out there for the people who have heard the full-length interviews that we post all over, of course, the internet, right? But Aeryon shared one of the most messed up near-death stories that you'll ever hear on this podcast.
Oh, God, the one thing I can think about is I remember years ago in my 20s, is actually not a good story, but years ago in my 20s, my girlfriend and I went down to Buffalo, New York, went out for the night, met these guys, and they ended up actually kind of kidnapping us to a certain degree. The one guy took her upstairs, and I was in the car with the other guy, had a gun on me. And it was terrifying. I remember I was basically pretending I had a kid and telling them this whole story. And the guy raped my girlfriend upstairs, and then drove us to the border, and then they got out and we drove across, and that would have been my near-death experience.
Holy
it's pretty intense. Yeah. So I don't think you're probably expecting that, but
I know I was not expecting. I was chased by a bear, something like that. But that's nuts. Like, what the time frame for that? Like, how long did that last?
It was hours. I was in the car for hours with him downstairs. Yeah, and he had the other guy, and I thought then I was going to be next.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the conversation. I remember I was trying to talk to him and asking him if he had kids, and he told me he did have kids. And so I said, my daughter's the same age. And so I kind of made this narrative so then he'd hopefully see a little bit of myself in possibly the mother of his kids.
Yeah.
Wow. And so nothing happened with me. Yeah. Nothing happened with me. Her and I are still good friends. We were friends for many, many years. She never spoke about it after. I mean, and she was married too, right? So there was a whole thing beyond that as well. So yeah, she doesn't live in the country anymore. But so it was terrifying when I think about it now. That was funny. That was the first thing that came to my mind was that one. I was like, oh yeah, wow, I haven't thought about that for a while.
Yeah. Wow. That is insane. What a crazy story.
Yeah.
Right. Like, isn't that one of the craziest near-death stories that you've ever heard? As we'll go from a health and fitness expert to author and geologist Cheryl Leutjen. Now, Cheryl's publicist had reached out to us a few months ago because Cheryl had just released her new book called Love Earth Now. And did we want to have her on as a guest? And why not? An expert in geology, passionate about environmental issues, aims to inspire, get you thinking about leaving a positive impact on Earth? Like, I'm in, right? And when Cheryl jumped to Zoom with us, we talked about, of course, the environment. Electrical vehicles came up, her love of escapism and detective novels, growing up to the music of Neil Diamond and Kenny Rogers. And she talked about writing her new book and how long that took, Love Earth Now.
It was interesting. It was 5 years from the day that I first went into a writing workshop and said, oh, here's some things I want to write about, to the day that the book was published. But really, it was having a publisher come to me and say, this is the day that you have to turn it in.
Yeah.
That's cut off.
Give me a deadline.
I would still be writing that book. Yeah. I need deadlines.
Sure. Fair enough. I think most of us do. And so, like, have you always liked writing? Was it something you were into as a kid as well, or?
I've always been someone who could write. I wasn't really into it as a career as a kid so much. It was just something that, I could do. But I know some people who are born with, this need to write. I've got to express myself through writing, and I came to that a lot later.
And when you listen to Cheryl talk about writing that book, could you write a book, do you think? Like, sit down and actually take the time? Like, maybe when there's an empty nest syndrome going on in my house, but I couldn't imagine trying to carve out enough time to devote to a project right now like that. Or, for my story anyway, I've thought about doing that from time to time. But back to Cheryl, and after talking to her, you'll hear that she's all about conservation and sustainability. Grew up in Kansas City, talked about getting out in nature, binging Northern Exposure. Remember that show back in the holy throwback? She touched on career highlights, COVID's effect on the world, and Cheryl shared what the music was like in her house as a kid growing up and her first concert story.
My parents listened to some pretty cool music. They were really young when I was born, so they were still listening to rock and roll and a lot of Neil Diamond, I recall, and of course Al Hurt and the Tijuana Brass. That was big. Kenny Rogers and the First Edition. My first concert was with my parents going to see Sonny and Cher.
Okay, I was going to ask you at first concert. And what do you remember about that night or that day or whatever?
Yeah. So music was a big part. I mean, I remember music being played in my house growing up. Of course, that was before there was TV 24/7 and podcasts and all the other media.
And everybody with their face in their phones.
Right, and their earbuds, listening to their own music.
Yeah, it's a really weird time, especially considering growing up the way that we did. I would imagine we're probably similar in age.
Mm-hmm.
And to not have anything, to suddenly having everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know who had it better.
Yeah. Maybe somewhere in the middle would be nice, but we don't ever seem to get that.
Yeah. What do you, I want to back to your first concert. What do you remember specifically about that show with Sonny and Cher?
I just remember thinking her hair was really long. I was young. I don't remember how young I was, but I was really young.
Yeah.
And maybe that wasn't the first. I remember going to the outdoor theater with my grandfather to see the guy who played Gomer Pyle. What was his name?
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
That guy?
he was singing, and that was my first experience hearing a person sing live in person, and I just thought that he was the best singer on the planet. I went home and told my parents to buy all his records. Like, I don't even know if he has any.
Red Truck Beer, delivered fresh, the official beer of the Toddcast podcast.
Silent despair, present but still unaware that you cannot comprehend it. So open up, just give up, just give in, bust it up, don't let it get away, yeah. Don't let it get away. Just open up, just give up, just give in, bust it up, don't let it get away, yeah. Don't let it get away, yeah. When it's gone, let it rest, let it rest. The best is gone, it will never be so good again. Let it rest, no looking back, you're gone, you're gone, you're not coming down. I'm coming down, yeah. So open up, just give up, just give in, bust it up, don't let it get away, yeah. Don't let it get away, yeah. When it's gone, let it rest, let it rest. The best is gone, it will never be so good again. Let it rest,
I cannot wait for next month. The band is called 816, and that's a new song for them called Down, if you didn't pick that up. They're kind of a Vancouver supergroup, I guess, if you think about it. If you remember a band called Stand Down and Pedwell. So it's the guys of Stand Down with Pedwell's singer, and we have one in the chamber with those guys, as mentioned, next month on Friday, June 21st at the Blue Light Studio, Toddcast Podcast, Blue Light Sessions with 816 and Another Man's Gold. Now, Another Man's Gold singer is Owlface singer. If you remember Owlface, because we've played those guys many times on the podcast over the years, have done live shows with them as well. So Vincent's new project, Another Man's Gold, is playing as well next month. Killer night, man. Stoked for both bands. Super good bands, but super good dudes as well. Great players. It's going to be really good. As always, both bands will have that 45-minute set, the interview, the performance. You can grab tickets right now through eventbrite.ca, Brite, eventbrite.ca, Toddcast Podcast. You can't miss it. It's likely to sell out, so grab tickets right now before it does. Looking forward to getting you to our next podcast as well. Everyone does it, binge watching. 12 guests will talk about what's eating up their time in front of the boob tube. He's not a guest next week, so check out what 311's bassist Peanut said.
Binge watching the 4th season of Fargo on Hulu through.
Oh, you are, eh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. God damn, it's good. I love all of the seasons, and I love living in that world. But this 4th season with Chris Rock and Jason Schwartzman is just incredible. I think I don't know if it's the best, but I love that it's doing what it's doing. And I'm on like the last episode, and I'm like watching 10 minutes at a time and finding some excuse to stop it and pursing it out. I like that about modern series watching. Who knew that we could watch 15 hours of a narrative and want more? I know, right? Like Ozark and, of course, Breaking Bad. It's just like, here's this like 50-hour movie that we're all kind of privy to now. And the world is a better place with that kind of long form storytelling. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and I liked it, and maybe you felt the same way too when series will just release like one episode a week, and it kind of almost is like nostalgic. It fucking makes you think of like the way it was when we were little kids. Like my kids were like, "What? Why are they only releasing one a week? What is that?" I'm like, that's the way all shows were.
Yeah, you had to wait, and then it made you think about it.
Boom, it's Peanut of the rock band 311. Next podcast, you will hear 12 guests as they share their binge-watching habits. Personally, I'm into the Gentleman series right now. Guy Ritchie, written and directed. It's good. Like, it's all about weed. It's a weed farm on this land that was recently transferred to a son from his dad who just passed away. And the relationship between the growers and the house and the manor, I guess. It's like the movie, if you've seen the movie, but it's stretched into a bigger series. It's really good, which I guess we'll put a little bow on this one. This one's pretty much done. Episode 332. Of course, a big thanks to all of the guests this week for allowing us and putting up with us, promoting their careers even more than originally thought. If you can believe it, there are some guests over the years who have asked us to stop posting their visits. Yeah, not even kidding you. I wish I was. Some who have outright blocked us from following them on social media, which is a real mind blower because you would think that they'd want to have their spotlight shined on them, right? But to each their own. Sean Avery, I never expected you to be so thin-skinned on social media, but I'll leave it at that. Once again, my name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please do tell your friends about what we're doing here. We are part of the Realm.fm network. They're based out of New York City, worldwide distribution. Super thankful for that. Realm.fm is amazing. Like fiction, nonfiction, they have so many to choose from. So check them out as well. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Megaphone. We post all of our interviews on our YouTube channel. Of course, if you comment and rate the podcast, it helps out big time. Again, a simple search of Toddcast podcast. You can't miss us. Huge thanks to all of our stellar sponsors. It's their support that allows us to indulge and interview people and create podcasts for you. So find links to all sponsor websites and use them if you need them through toddhancock.ca. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast with your business, you can for as little as $10 a day. Contact info at the homepage. Maybe we'll have a beer, have a coffee, and see what's up. All right. And if you help us find a sponsor, we will give you a commission. No kidding. Like, make some bank listening to this podcast. Please let me know who else is doing that. I'll wait. Not going to wait long, but I'll wait. Till next time, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast podcast, powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, dedicated to helping you find the best mortgage rates. Available 7 days a week at citywidemortgage.ca.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my 2 wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. The one thing I constantly hear successful people say, without fail, is that they wish they'd spent more time with their kids. That's time no one can get back. So I decided to create Business Dad, to engage in the conversation about how we're spending our time now, providing a forum for successful dads to share their joys and challenges of being a working parent. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier. And while this podcast will talk about business and will definitely be featuring dads, I think everyone can learn something from these incredible conversations as we unpack the expectations we all have about careers, relationships, and ourselves. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.